Ever since I got drawn into the world of Killzone and its online multiplayer scene, there is one question that I've seen come up again and again by people on Reddit, Discord, and YouTube. And that question is there any way to play Killzone 3 online multiplayer? And if not, is anybody working on it? I can answer the first part of that question pretty easily. No, you cannot play Killzone 3 online at this moment. That functionality was taken down in 2018. And as of the making of this video, there's no other way to play it online. What you see me doing here is playing against bots in the bot zone mode. As for the second part of that question, is there anybody working on it? That's going to be the main focus of this video. But first I want to unpack some things. Killzone 1 and Killzone 2 multiplayers were taken down just like Killzone 3. In fact, Killzone 2 was taken down at the same time as Killzone 3. But Killzone 1 and 2 were both brought back online through the use of private servers. So people are now able to play those games again online. If that last sentence is news to you and you would like to join the multiplayer, I have made videos showing how to connect to that private server. I did one video for Killzone 1 and one for Killzone 2, since the process is different for each one. Neither one involves modding your system, it's a settings change. Also note, there's a couple of people working on bringing back Killzone Mercenary for the Vita, and I made a short video about that effort as well. The links to all these videos will be in the description. So it's been 6 years since people have been able to play Killzone 3 online, so it's only natural that people are asking about it, especially given the fact that so much progress has been made on other Killzone titles. I never played Killzone 3 back when it was online, but I know how those people feel because I was a Killzone Shadowfall player, and one day I went to play and the multiplayer wasn't there anymore. I somehow missed the news that they took the server down, and I did not get to record a farewell match or anything like that. I can, however, go into Shadowfall and play against bots in the offline mode, and I get to do it on all the different multiplayer maps that I choose. For Killzone 3 though, people cannot play all the multiplayer maps in the bot zone mode because 3 of those maps were only available online. In other words, nobody has been able to play those 3 maps since 2018. This puts Killzone 3 in a unique category. It's not only missing the multiplayer, it's missing maps. So basically, Killzone 3 fans got a bigger kick in the groin than the fans of the other Killzone games. By the way, the 3 maps I'm talking about are Turbine Concourse SE6, Tharsis Depot, and Junkyard. 2 of those were DLC. But even if you have the DLC installed, they are still not playable in the bot zone. Other DLC maps are available in bot zone, like Radic Academy, seen right here. The reason they're not in bot zone seems to be because that those were the only 3 maps where you were able to use jetpacks. They probably didn't want to go to the trouble of programming bots to use the jetpacks, so that's why they were left out. It's sad because the Turbine Concourse one seems very interesting. It featured a large warp coil in the center of the map that at times scrambles the radar and renders the jetpacks unusable. Tharsis Depot is a dramatic reimagining of the classic Killzone 2 map. Then there's Junkyard, not to be confused with Mauler Graveyard, another Killzone 3 map, but Junkyard featured both the jetpacks and the exosuits. So when I see footage of it, it kind of looks like something from Titanfall. But let's get to the question at hand here. Is anybody working on restoring Killzone 3? The short answer is yes. In fact, 3 different restoration groups have done some level of work on the game. They are PS.org, PS1, and PS Rewired. Many of you probably recognize one or more of those because they've been involved in a lot of online multiplayer restorations. The people who are doing the work within those groups go by these usernames when they're chatting on Discord. Now, after seeing this, please do not go over and bug them on Discord and pressure them to do Killzone 3. And also never ever ping them. Also don't ask for ETAs. PS Org actually has a Discord rule forbidding you from asking for ETAs. From what I can tell, these people doing the work all have day jobs, and they just work on these game restorations on the side when they have the energy. So don't distract them on Discord, just let them do their stuff. Getting these games up and running again is incredibly hard work, which I'll touch on in a few minutes here. But anyway, I went to the trouble of digging into what each of these developers have publicly said in Discord in regards to Killzone 3 work. In fact, I believe what I'm about to show you is pretty much everything they've ever said openly in Discord about Killzone 3 restoration. In some cases, what they say isn't very much, but we're going to go through all the breadcrumbs these developers have laid out so we can get a good overall picture of what's going on. We'll start with PS Org and what Mr. Jumpsuit has said. And this comment is from 2021, and he mentions some games there that he's done a little bit of work on, and he is saying that he has gotten these games to talk to the server after the initial connection, and he mentions Killzone 3 as one of them. He says it's just figuring out how to respond to that talk. A month later, he touched on Killzone 3 again. He says Killzone 3 crashes at the moment when he tries to make it work. About a year later, he says Killzone 3 is stuck on the region list. And a few days later, he says, I'm still poking at Killzone 3, but without knowing the proper format for the region list, I'm just blindly poking at the moment. And the last breadcrumb came in late 2023. Someone asked, is Killzone 3 on the way? And he said, if I have any news about the game, I will post about it. So that's kind of what these developers say in general when people are asking about certain games. They don't like to predict when they're going to be done with something because they do not know when they're going to be done with something. So that brings us to PS1. The main developer there is Snake, and he said in early 2022, Resistance and Killzone 3 are the priorities. MAG and SOCOM 4 are currently side projects. Then in 2023, he talked about it a little bit more. He said, additionally, efforts will be made to revive Killzone 3, MAG, and SOCOM 4. That's what you can expect for me to work on. And about a month later, he was talking to somebody about the needs for a moderator on Discord because he feels overwhelmed by the tickets and stuff they have to deal with on a daily basis on Discord. He said if he had more moderators, that would free up some of my free time to dedicate to reverse engineering unavailable servers like MAG, SOCOM 4, or Killzone 3. So that shows that Killzone 3 is on his radar. But from what I can see, he hasn't mentioned it again since that message was posted in September 2023. And that brings us to PS Rewired. There's two developers who work on these games. Now here is a conversation where people are talking and they're saying, are there any more games being revived soon on PS Rewired? And Kerberos, and I hope I'm pronouncing that name right, responded to this person that said it's been a while. He said, happens when the only games left are extremely difficult ones, and real life gets in the way of a hobby project. And someone responded, well, what are the games left? And he said Starhawk, MS Apoc, SOCOM 4, MAG, Resistance 2, and Killzone 3. So that's part of what's going on here. Killzone 3 is one of the harder games to reverse engineer. That conversation is in 2023. Then, over a month later, he said, spent some time working on Killzone 3 last night. Not going to be easy. Then he said something similar a few days later. I was messing with Killzone 3 last weekend, but yeah, Killzone 2 is still high on my list. Killzone 2 is already available online through PS Rewired, but I believe what he's referring to there are extra features that will be added to Killzone 2 later. Before I go on to the next comment, I just want to point out that Killzone 3 uses something called Medius. I am not an expert, but from what I read, it is a network engine that was used on a lot of PS3 games and some PS2 games, and I think some PSP games. It's basically how the servers talk to each other or something like that. But either way, these people who are reviving these games have become fluent at Medius. Killzone 1 and 2 were Medius centered games, and so is Killzone 3. Now, with the context out of the way, you can understand this next comment. Somebody was saying that Battlefield and Bad Company are going to be more challenging to bring back because they don't use Medius, and PS Rewired focuses mainly on Medius-related games. And Kerberos confirmed that. He does say we have another server that isn't Medius, but that one isn't released yet. But he goes on to say, I may also work on Uncharted, but time is very limited for me. I'd rather finish the MS games, Starhawk, MAG, TMHO. I'm sorry, I don't know what some of these abbreviations are. But he goes on to say Killzone 3. So this is September 2023, and it goes to show that Killzone 3 is still on the radar. So a little bit later in 2023, 1UP, the other developer, starts talking about Killzone 3. He asked the community, does anyone happen to have a screenshot or video of the login process to Killzone 3? And then someone actually had those screenshots. And he said, thanks. And he said, I honestly wasn't expecting someone to have those. I've been looking around for videos for the past hour and I couldn't find anything that showed those. Well, it looks like I had the right idea. I just need to figure out why the game crashes. And he goes on to say the packet logs out there were essentially useless. Now let me back up a second and explain that. There is something that people can do when they learn that the official servers to a game are going to be taken down, and that is to do packet captures. I don't know the process, but I think it involves running the game through your PC and playing the multiplayer, and you have this program running that captures the talk that's going back and forth between the server and the game system or whatever. People have done this for a lot of games that have been taken offline, and then they post them publicly. Getting back to his comment, I'm assuming whoever created that packet file joined a friend through the friends list, and it bypassed like everything. So essentially the packet captures for Killzone 3 are not very useful because the person who captured it did not take the traditional route to playing the multiplayer. So there's missing information, and that's going to make the work harder. And finally, I got one quote from January 2024, and this is actually from about 2 weeks ago from when I'm posting this video. Kerberos said, whenever we have time, which has been limited lately, I've been working on Motorstorm Apocalypse and Killzone 3 when I can. But I didn't want the conversation to end there, so I actually made a posting myself on the PS Rewired Discord. I asked them respectfully, without using a ping, if there's anything they wish to add, including if they want to add something about how difficult it is to work on compared to Killzone 2. And 1UP responded, they didn't really keep anything consistent between any of the Killzone games, so each one is essentially starting over. So Killzone 1 used Medius and nothing else. Killzone 2 and 3 used SVO, which isn't really a problem, but they also used their own scripting language in conjunction with it, which as far as I know, no other game has done for SVO. Killzone Liberation is the same way. That's more or less why those packet logs floating around are useless, as they don't include any of those requests. I added a little bit more. I said, I also heard something to the effect that Killzone 3 did a lot of things server side compared to Killzone 2, and 1UP said both of them do. And that, my friends, is everything that I can find on the progress that's going on with Killzone 3. I'm kind of troubled that there's 3 different organizations working on the same thing. What happens if they're all 3 successful? Then you have a player base that's split into 3 different parts. But from what I can see here, PS Rewired seems to be ahead of everyone else. At least they're a little bit more open about it. So we're going to keep our eye on things, and if I get any more news about it, I'll make another video for you guys. So I hope you found this video enjoyable. There's a couple more on the screen in front of you if you want to watch those. And as I always say, long live Killzone.